Sideline Guys, Adam Schinder and Mark Robarge back again here at sidelineguys.recordernews.com. It's the day after the Super Bowl. Packers 31, Steelers 25.
And I am humbled.
And I was right.
Oh,
for the first time in a long time, I was right. I'm usually wrong. But last night, just really a terrific game after the awful start from the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Well, and after the awful start by Christina Aguilera. There's the ultimate in awful starts.
I guess doomed from the start, but what can you say about the performance of Aaron Rodgers last night?
He just showed that why he has quickly become one of the upper echelon of quarterbacks in the NFL. I mean, he made every play last night. I don't think I saw him make one mistake. And some of his throws were just, that laser he threw to Jennings over the middle in the fourth quarter was just probably one of the best clutch passes I've ever seen in a Super Bowl.
He showed exactly why, if you talk to any of the 32 executives in the NFL right now, if someone's starting a franchise right now and you have to pick one player, it's Aaron Rodgers. And he did it with kind of a microcosm of what happened to this Green Bay Packer team all season.
Yes.
Guys dropped like flies, passes dropped like flies. And the defense, as it's done at points, helps that team stake itself to a huge lead, and then they start sitting back and letting teams come back, and finally they make a play when they have to.
Let's start with the drops. He threw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. He could have easily, with I believe it was 4 drop balls. He could have easily been over 400 yards. No question about it. I mean, look, he was the MVP of the game, no doubt about it. But he could have had a historic game if his receivers would have had a little stick him on.
And these weren't questionable drops.
No.
James Jones drops a pass that probably would have. There was no one within 15 yards, so it probably would have taken it for a touchdown.
Yep.
Jordy Nelson dropped a couple, one in the end zone.
Greg Jennings hit him right between the numbers.
Yes. Greg Jennings was about the only guy who didn't have a rash of drops.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's what happened to this Packer team all season long. They dropped passes when they shouldn't have. They had some injuries. They had them last night. Charles Woodson going out. Donald Driver. Your two biggest veteran presences on that team basically didn't play. Woodson was gone for pretty much the entire second half. So was Driver.
Yep.
And this team still came through it really because of Aaron Rodgers.
And then on the other side of the field, Ben Roethlisberger, I guess kind of, in my mind at least, his true colors are shown. He's not a big game quarterback. If you look at his numbers from the 2 previous Super Bowls, not really a big game quarterback. He's relied on the running game. He's been more of a game manager, if you will, in the winning efforts. And last night, when they kind of put the burden on his shoulders, he really kind of collapsed under the pressure.
I'll disagree a little with obviously his first Super Bowl.
Right.
That was certainly that. He was terrible in that game and took advantage of some really, really poor officiating and some plays made by the rest of his team to win that game. He was really instrumental and played a huge, huge game in Super Bowl 43 to beat the Cardinals.
Okay, I'll give you that. I didn't think it was that impressive in the Cardinals game. Yeah, he looked good at the end of the game and when it mattered the most. But look, there's been a lot of controversy around Big Ben this year, obviously because of the way his season started. But there's always been that split among people judging whether he really is one of the big 3 or big 4, whatever you want to say, quarterbacks. I think after watching this game, I think it's pretty safe to say that he is not in the same league as the Tom Bradys and the Peyton Mannings and the Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I think you've got a pretty set top 4 at your quarterback in the NFL with Brady, Rodgers, Manning, and Drew Brees also.
Right.
But the big question is, coming out of this game, this is a young Green Bay Packer team. Aaron Rodgers is 27 years old, but he's only really played 3 NFL seasons.
I know. I've already heard in some of those they're bannering around the word dynasty.
Is this I don't think you can say anything close to that yet. Let him get to a second Super Bowl before we can.
I don't think you can even say it in the NFL right now. Let's see what happens with the collective bargaining agreement. Let's see what happens with the lockout / strike, whatever you want to call it. Let's see how the face of football comes out on the other side financially before we talk about even if there's going to be the possibility of there being a dynasty.
Now we go from something that happened last night to something that'll happen just a few hours after we tape this, about 2:30 on Monday afternoon. Tonight, in Fort Plain, it was delayed 6 days due to weather, but now we finally get the game that is, for all intents and purposes, for the Western Athletic Conference North Division title. Fort Plain, Spa Catholic, and you had a chance to see Fort Plain Friday night when they looked very impressive in beating Mayfield.
Once again, I mean, I've not seen this team yet this season when they haven't impressed me in some ways. In this case, Friday night, it was just the fact that even after a 2-week layoff, as I said in the lead to my story that ran in Saturday's paper, the rust lasted all of 5 seconds. Opening tap, Jabin Weaver converts on a layup. They're off and running. It wasn't even close. This game was over within the first 3 or 4 minutes. Fort Plain against a very good Mayfield team. Let's not forget, Mayfield is not a bad team at all. Their big losses this season, their only losses this season, have come against really the top teams in the WAC, including Fort Plain twice, Spa Catholic twice, Schenectady Christian, I believe, once, and I think they've lost once to Schoharie as well. I'm not certain on that. But none of these teams that they lost to are slouches. They've beaten the teams they're supposed to beat. As a matter of fact, I had a chance to talk to their coach, Pete Updike, after the game. Very nice man, my first chance to talk to him. Very gracious, and gave me a really good insight from his side, having seen both these teams, as to what he expects to see tonight. He's no doubt. He says this is 1A and 1B in the WAC North. He doesn't think there's a lot that separates these teams. He really can't say if there's one better than the other. The big differences he sees, basically 1 on each side. He says Spa Catholic likes to run a little bit more, which kind of surprises me because actually Fort Plain seems to be its most comfortable when it's out on the run. But what he said Fort Plain has as its advantage, and this really doesn't surprise me that much, is he says that this team is much more meticulous in the details, the little things, and Craig Phillips prides himself on that. I know in talking to him after the Mayfield game, he was impressed that they were doing the little things. Good defense, solid rebounding, good passing, all those little things that build up to make a great team, and this is going to be a dynamite game tonight. I wish I could be there myself.
Yeah, and that's what Pete Updike told you is exactly what I saw January 4th in Saratoga Springs. All that separates these two teams at this point in the year is 1 point. And what I saw from these are two very similar teams in terms of the way they're constructed, in terms of who they look to. I mean, Spa Catholic's got a very good trio of players in Sean Hobbins, Brad Scammell, and sophomore forward Matt Boyark. Fort Plain a little more balanced in terms of they'll spread it out to 5 guys. Mm-hmm. Neither team goes incredibly deep on the bench in terms of scoring, but they are deep on the bench in terms of guys who can come in and contribute in different ways. And I do think Spa Catholic wants to run a little more up-tempo. Fort Plain runs a quick offense, but they don't necessarily break all the time. They didn't break very much in that entire game against Spa Catholic. They tried to control it a little more in the half court, and I think I'll see that again tonight up there in Fort Plain. They may try and get out a little bit more with the home court and try and feed off that energy. But again, I think you're seeing a very close game. I can't even come with a prediction, because it's a coin flip with these two teams.
And if you can't be there for the game tonight, you can follow Adam's coverage of the game on Twitter. That's twitter.com/recorder_sports. Adam will be providing regular live updates throughout the evening for the game, so if you can't get there, check it out there. Finally, to wrap things up, and really not much change here, but it's time for that top 5 again. Only one more after this before we get to the postseason, so let's go for it.
All right, for me, it's Fort Plain is number 1, and everybody else is an honorable mention at this point, basically. Really, nobody did anything last week to move up or move down in the standings. Mayfield drops a game to Fort Plain. Fort Plain wins their 1 game. Amsterdam loses their 1 game, a tough decision to Bishop Gibbons. Broadalbin Perth gets off their losing streak against South Glens Falls, then loses 2 more games. Fonda continues to be very, very uneven. One of these teams needs to step up over the last week and a half of the season.
And 2 of these teams will have an opportunity too this week. Tuesday night, and I'll be at this one in Fonda as Watervliet comes in for the rematch of really what was an ugly game down in Watervliet, and really the first sign with Fonda of the cracks in the armor that they have offensively. So that could be an interesting game. And Wednesday night, I'll be up at Amsterdam High School when the Rams take on CBA, which is, I believe, at the last check, number 3 in the state in Class AA. So I'm going to go with Adam. Number 1, Fort Plain. Let's tie everybody else for number 2 and see what happens as the last week of the season plays out.
All right, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week once again. For Mark, I'm Adam. We're the Sideline Guys, and we'll see you again on SidelineGuys.recordernews.com.